Now, the jury in the Doomsday cult mom trial has had the day off as the attorneys on both sides meet with the judge. Now, we expect closing arguments to begin tomorrow. So let's take you live to Boise, Idaho, and Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter. Chanley, I understand you have some new video of the Daybells?
That's right. So this is big because we hadn't seen this before, except inside this courthouse during testimony when a detective from the Hawaii Police Department was testifying for prosecutors about serving Lori with some legal papers in January 2020, months after her kids have been missing. She's not helping find her kids. She's not telling the authorities where her children are. Everyone is concerned around the world. And guess where she is? She's laying by the pool at a Hawaiian resort with her brand new husband, and the jury got to watch this unfold. So let's watch it now.
Hi. How's it going? Hi. Are you Kevin Lori? Who's evaluation, sir? Do you have any questions regarding that? So it is 14:39 hours on January 25th.
Do you need something?
Any questions? You have any questions for that? No? Okay. All right, have a nice day. Have a nice day.
Michael and Ashley, no question she's asking. What is this about? Do you know anything about my children? She's not saying anything. She just kind of shrugs them off, doesn't have anything to say. You can see Chad sitting there kind of awkwardly as he doesn't seem to be expecting the police to be there in Hawaii serving the papers. And this detective goes on to testify about searching their rental vehicle that they had, trying to find any sign of the children, where they may be, and the eerie things they did find, like, the Social Security cards and credit cards of Tylee, JJ's iPad, but no sign of the actual children. And of course, we know that's right before she was arrested in Hawaii and brought back here.
Chanley, that's one way certainly to ruin a vacation. You're sitting there. I mean, I don't know how, completely honest. When I watch that video, I say to myself, what were they thinking sitting there in Hawaii when all this was going on back home? Did they really think that they were going to get away with this?
Well, they didn't seem bothered, but to your point, Chanley, they also didn't seem surprised that somebody was handing them papers. So, yeah, this case, I told Chanley, every time you bring these great details, I'm like, holy smokes, it just is more and more unbelievable as we go. All right, so let's talk about today, because we know the jury's not there today, but we know that doesn't mean attorneys aren't working on the case. What are they up to?
Yeah, I just left the courtroom. I ran out here to be on with you guys. So inside the courtroom, it's just the parties and the judge, and they're going through the extensive jury instructions. And we aren't privy to a copy of that just yet. So it's a little difficult to follow along, right? Because they're saying, okay, instruction number 11, objection, no objection, instruction number 27. And they'll say something about it. It gives us an idea of what that instruction may say, but we don't know the full language. So that's what it's like in the courtroom. Less people in the gallery, mostly just some media members, some members of the public, but Lori is there. And Ashley, I know I updated you earlier. She's kind of has her back turned to the people in the gallery a little bit. She's wearing a white hoodie. Today, the same, long curls and glasses, not as much makeup. Doesn't seem to be as smiley, chatty that I've seen inside the court. Very serious. She'll take some notes on her paper, take a drink of water. But that's what she's like inside the courtroom. Again, no jury there today. They'll return tomorrow for closing arguments. And we have some heads up on who may be delivering those. We're expecting Rob Wood, the Madison County prosecutor who started this all, almost 3 years ago against Lori and Chad. He's going to be the closer for the state, delivering what should be a dynamite summation around power, money, and sex, as we heard them say in opening statements. And then for the defense of Lori, they chose not to put on a case or call Lori to the stand. She didn't want to testify, so they're going to rely on closing arguments. Jim Archibald will lead the way arguing for her, likely focusing around the fact that they don't believe the prosecution proved its case beyond a reasonable doubt. And then at that point, all the jurors' names will go into a box of some sort, I'm told. It'll be like a raffle. Shake it up. And they'll draw out 6 random names for the alternates, and the final 12 will go back and deliberate the fate of Lori Vallow Daybell.
And remind us, with that in mind, what exactly is Lori facing?
Yeah, she's facing several counts of conspiracy to commit murder and the murder of her 2 children, plus conspiracy to commit murder of Tammy Daybell. So of Tylee, there's a count for Tylee, there's a count for JJ. Now the conspiracy alleges several overt acts that they have to prove that she agreed and wanted this to happen, and then someone, Alex, Chad, or Lori, committed some sort of overt act in furtherance of that conspiracy. And then the murder, first-degree murder charges as a principal, someone who aids or abets its commission, advised, encouraged the commission, commanded or compelled the commission of this murder to happen. So this is what they're kind of going through, the language of that this jury will be read before they decide whether or not she's guilty. If convicted, it's automatic life without parole here. Remember, her attorneys already had a big win before trial by getting the death penalty taken off the table for Lori. So if she is convicted, it's life. There still would likely be, well, there will be a sentencing hearing, Michael and Ashley, for victim impact statements and possibly some mitigation for Lori.
All right, Chanley Painter, we're going to let you get back inside that courthouse where the attorneys are still talking to the judge, figuring out those jury instructions. We want to welcome our guest for this hour, criminal defense attorney Joseph Tully, still with us. Thank you for still being with us. And I want to talk about a little bit of evidence that's been brought into this case to prove the murder charge. And we've talked about what best evidence is, but I want to start with that video that is really disturbing to watch, because again, they really don't seem bothered by the fact someone's coming to serve them papers. And if my kids were missing, I'll tell you where I wouldn't be. First of all, I wouldn't be sitting at a pool sunning. I'd be looking for my children. But second of all, they didn't seem surprised. So what kind of, what does this offer a jury to see a video like this, Joseph?
Sure. So it's actually a really brilliant move by the prosecution. As you know, Miranda only applies during custodial interrogation. So those 2 things need to be present. Here, because she wasn't being arrested, they could give her some paperwork and gauge her reaction. They were fishing for her to make a statement. She didn't take the bait, but as you're pointing out, they still have her reaction and all the environment surrounding this whole service of the paperwork. So I think, you know, all the points that you brought up, that the things that she didn't do, she didn't show surprise, she didn't show care for her children. I think that's what they can now bring to the jury using this video.
You know what, Joseph, and your point is extremely well taken in terms of, I think, just the fact that they're in Hawaii speaks volumes about the situation. Now, it doesn't prove anything. They're just lying poolside. But given the circumstances, I think, again, it speaks volumes. Is it fair for a jury to feel that way as well and say, you know what, as the judge said, if my kids were missing, and I didn't know where they were, I certainly would not be sitting poolside a long way away from where they were supposed to be, and I would be looking for them.
Sure, definitely. Or the first thing when you get that paperwork, you'd say, did somebody find my kids? Is this paperwork? Where are my kids? Are they okay? Are they safe? Right? And we don't see that here. But pay attention to her breathing. You could tell her something is kicking her in the stomach there, metaphorically, as she's reading that paperwork. She's not letting it on, but if you look at her breathing, she's definitely feeling some heavy emotion there.
And her face is a little bit different there than we've seen her in other videos, too. I think you're right. I want to bring up, though, because I'm going to push back a little bit, Michael, about the Hawaii. I think it does speak volumes if you look at it in conjunction with a timeline. I have taken a page out of the book of Michael Ayala because you always do timelines and you look at that and study those. And so let's talk about some key dates here, because we know July 22, and this is all in 2019, there were texts between Lori and Chad regarding the plan to be in Hawaii, a plan. in July. Then on August 25th, Lori searched for those wedding rings. We've heard about that. And then September 8th tonight. Now, according to the indictment, the charges against Lori, that is when prosecutors say the murder of Tylee and JJ happened. The alleged murder by Lori, right? September 8th to 9th. Then October 30th, she requested that quote so she could have her beach wedding. That, to me, Michael, puts it in context to say there was a plan, they were murdered, and then they go to Hawaii, and you see them on that video later on.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic macro timeline, and we've looked at a couple of timelines earlier regarding phone calls directly surrounding the time that they believe Tylee and JJ died, which again gives you a sense of, boy, something is amiss, something is afoot. These timelines and these demonstratives, which I think have been used very well by the prosecution, Joseph, those things are essential for a case like this because, again, we don't have a smoking gun. We don't have things that suggest they did this, that, or the other. But when you start looking at these timelines and the context they help create for the things that are going on, I think it's really devastating.
I agree. I think in most of my cases, I do timelines as one of the first and foremost, most fundamental aspects of truly understanding a case. And this is a circumstantial case, and so you need to compile the circumstantial evidence. And by looking at it in a timeline, you could see the methodology of someone carrying out certain actions, and is there an intent behind this?
And so, Joseph, let's ask this. If we are talking about evidence and best evidence, take that timeline in conjunction with Bodycam where she lied. I want to add in that Lori Vallow Daybell lies about her kids, their whereabouts, what she knows. Let's listen to some of that together.
So, he's in Arizona. Who's he with in Arizona? He's with one of my friends in Arizona. Who's the friend he's with? My friend Melanie. Her son has autism. Her name's Melanie. I gave him all the information.
All right, so, she's lying. How does that go to the elements? Let me start with you, Michael, and Joseph, we'd like you to answer as well. How do you think lying goes to the elements of murder?
Well, I don't know about murder. But as far as conspiracy, I think it's clearly an act in furtherance of a conspiracy.
Yeah.
I think that lie in and of itself, all the other stuff we've heard all works within it, but that lie in and of itself, in my mind, Joseph, can be considered an act in furtherance of a conspiracy because she's trying to throw the cops off the trail.
I agree 100%. And Michael, I don't know if you remember, one of the things that you and I have talked about is a bad alibi is worse than a good confession. Even if there's a perfect confession that fits the exact facts of a case, you could still argue coercion. You could still argue that somebody's giving a false confession to cover up for someone else. You could still argue that it's coincidence that they got the facts somewhere else. But with a bad alibi, one that you can prove wrong, you lose all credibility with the jury, and you don't have. It's really hard to dig yourself out of that hole.
Yeah, fair enough. It's one of those defenses that almost puts the burden back on the defense,
Right,
unfortunately.
right.
So you got to be very careful. Good point.